The next PlayStation console and the next Xbox are in our minds as nothing more than hot topics of speculation, and the Switch has already done much to bolster the Nintendo brand. As new consoles release, we often wonder what frontiers are ahead for gaming, with one particular topic of note lately being game streaming. But it has often been the case that graphical improvements or showcases of graphical power have been used to illustrate the advances in technology as we transition from one console generation to another, though it could be said that graphics have become less of a focal point for gamers as it appears that the margins of improvement seem to become less apparent to the mainstream consumer. That being said, another way to track the evolution of graphics in gaming is not just to measure output across particular consoles in a console generation, but also through gaming franchises themselves, provided that they've been around long enough. With a name as storied as Grand Theft Auto, with its first title launching in 1997, we'll be able to take a fun look at this franchise's graphical evolution over time, and with a franchise that's been around as long as this one, we can expect to see some interesting changes. Going back to the first Grand Theft Auto game, to start with, we notice a gameplay presentation style completely different from what we're used to with the standard third-person view of most titles. Instead, we're treated to a game that plays top-down. Now, keep in mind that this game first released for MS-DOS and Windows, later making its way to the first PlayStation in the following year. The first game even featured gameplay progression based on levels, not typically something associated with the Grand Theft Auto games. That aside, the first game is not a graphical standout by any means. When looking at the running animations of any human objects in the game, the designs of the car sprites or the composition of the buildings, it all looks somewhere between serviceable and a bit drab. Next, we have Grand Theft Auto 2, which is basically similar to the first game graphically and first releasing in 1999. We again play the game from a top-down perspective. As we run around in the game, it's easy to feel like you or the other humans or anything else animated in general feels out of place in the environment itself often feeling quite static. Interestingly, this game released not only for PC but also for PlayStation, the Dreamcast, and the Game Boy Color of all platforms. But the PC is the only one with the option to toggle between noon or dusk modes, while the Dreamcast version plays only in the dusk setting, and the Game Boy Color and PlayStation versions are played in the noon setting. Choosing to play in either of these two settings impacts the general brightness of the game as you play through it. Grand Theft Auto 3 would introduce us to the third-person perspective that we typically associate with the modern Grand Theft Auto games. This is the game that really helped to put the franchise on the map, and it first released for the PlayStation 2, while later arriving on PC and on the first Xbox. More attention to detail is given to human models and to other in-game objects, giving a greater sense of animation and life to the world of Liberty City. An incredibly important game visually insofar as it would define what the future of the Grand Theft Auto series would play like. It earned many accolades and was an immense commercial success. Next, we have Grand Theft Auto Vice City, continuing with the 3D presentation established with the third game and releasing first on the PlayStation 2 as with Grand Theft Auto 3. Generally, the colors of this game are easy to contrast with its predecessor, much brighter and more colorful, in contrast to the often muted or muddy environments that we saw in Liberty City. Liberty City is supposed to be inspired by New York City, while Vice City is inspired by Miami. The brightness is almost to the point of garishness or even silliness. One look at the main character Tommy Vercetti's outfit and already you have an idea of what to expect. Following Vice City, we'll take a look at San Andreas. 3, Vice City, and San Andreas all released quite close to each other in the years 2001, 2002, and 2004 respectively. San Andreas is a fictional US state with 3 major cities, based on Los Angeles and San Francisco in California and Las Vegas in Nevada. The look of the game is successful at capturing a feeling of intense sunlight and dry heat that is associated with some of the desert area regions of the western United States. The level of textural definition is about what we're used to given the past games, and those looking for graphical evolution in general from Vice City aren't going to find much. But the general environmental vision is something to behold between this game and its 2 predecessors. The next title we will view is Grand Theft Auto 4, which marked the franchise's transition to HD consoles, first releasing for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in 2008, and for PCs later at the end of that year. There are many that grew up with the previous 3 games, the ones that really elevated the name of the brand. But Grand Theft Auto 4 meets the expectations placed upon the franchise to evolve past the formula it found success with and show a sense of evolution. Buildings are far more detailed than before and cannot be called an afterthought. Vehicles have much more definition than we are used to. There is much less flatness than what we might expect from seeing the previous games. It's a welcome progression from the past games and befits the level of importance that fans and the media invested into the franchise prior to its release. Had Grand Theft Auto 4 not made a proper graphical evolution for this release, it might have blunted a degree of momentum for the franchise, as a sense of scale and story expression through characters are hallmarks to the franchise, along with its intentionally mixed portrayal of gangster life in America. Finally, we have 2013's Grand Theft Auto 5, currently the best-selling game in the franchise, standing at more than 100 million copies sold. First releasing for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, it later made its way across generations to the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One in 2014 and to PCs in 2015. This is the best the franchise has to offer in terms of rain falling on the sidewalk, buildings and lights being reflected in puddles, and the movement of branches and leaves and trees and the soft movement of their shadows. The name of the game here, graphically, is to pursue making everything better, and the results are certainly impressive. And that concludes our video on the graphical evolution of the Grand Theft Auto series. From the franchise's very humble beginnings to the high bar set by Grand Theft Auto 5, the gap between the first title and the most recent ones are incredibly pronounced. So what was your first Grand Theft Auto game? Could you see yourself playing the first 2 Grand Theft Auto games, if at least to try and see how they played, and if not, are the graphics a deal breaker? What if we asked the same question for 3, Vice City and San Andreas? Would anybody consider the graphics of those a deal breaker? What do you want next for the Grand Theft Auto franchise in terms of story, themes, location, anything? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.